Hey guys, good Saturday morning, rainy, whatever. It has rained like every freaking day since we've been back from Florida. It's snowed since we've been back. It's rained, it's been cold. We've had like 2 nice days. Anyways, I can rant about that all day. We're back on the CF Moto and we're right around 4,000 miles and we've got some failures to talk about. Some of them my fault, some of them not my fault. Probably the most notable one, which is my fault, is the bushings. And if you look at, it's going to be hard to see on video, but you can see the tire is loose. You can see how much I can move that tire. And what that is inside here, there's some bushings and some sleeves that really need to be greased pretty often. I think what I found out is, unlike an automobile where if you grease it every oil change, you're pretty good. If you go through water or you pressure wash them, you really want to grease them a couple times afterwards. So we're going to tear it apart. We're going to show you how to change those, show you what we did to rectify that and what it's going to cost us to fix my mistake in that respect. The other one we have is the front drive shaft. The front drive shaft has 4 U-joints in it, has a steadier bearing in the middle, and on the very back U-joint where it meets up to the transfer case, basically the pin's rusted inside the U-joint. If you've ever had a U-joint apart, there's a bunch of needle bearings inside a cap that go over a pin, and when they get water in them, they'll rust over time, and then they don't turn. When that happens, what happens is the cap then starts turning in the yoke, and it wears the yoke out, and it gets sloppy. So our front drive shaft has done that. I don't know if that's CF Moto's fault. I don't really think so, because U-joints are U-joints are U-joints to a point. If you was to buy a Polaris or a Can-Am or something like that, it's likely that the U-joint is made by the same manufacturer. It's just, I think, luck of the draw. You get water in these things. They're in a very harsh environment. If you drove your car underwater every day, it probably wouldn't last more than 3,000 or 4,000 miles either. So I can't really be cranky about that. The one thing I can be a little cranky about is CF Moto doesn't sell the yoke that bolts to the transmission. They sell the U-joints, but they don't sell the yoke. So the solution through CF Moto is I buy the half shaft, the front, the one piece of the drive shaft. It goes between the steadier bearing and the transmission. That's got slip joint, 2 universal joints, and the yoke and the drive shaft, and it's $200, so it's not terrible. So I can't really complain about that. So I'm going to get this tire off and get ready to show you guys what we got going on here. So why don't you guys take a break, maybe grab a drink or something. I'm going to get this tire off. I'm going to show you how to get an A-arm off, and we'll show you what the problem actually is. So hold on, we'll be right back. Ready? Yep. Gravity. Alright, so as you can see, I got the lower control arm out. I've left the CV shaft and everything hooked up. What I think anyways, I can do all of these without taking anything major apart. So I'm going to do this one, and then we're going to come back and do the top one. But these are the parts I'm talking about right here. And we'll get it over to the bench and get it cleaned up. But there's that, and there's these bushings that go in this A-arm. So why don't you guys hold on a minute, let me get over to the bench, and I'll show you what we got going on. Alright, so this is that same sleeve, whatever you want to call it, that I just took out. I don't know if you guys can see it on camera, but there's you can see where it's worn to the metal. I don't know if I turn it, if it helps or not, but you can see how there's a lip here and a lip in the middle and a lip on the end. And there's 2 flats right there wore right in. So these are the old bushings. These are the new ones. And you see if I put that on there, it's a little sloppy even in there. So what I've done is I've ordered the new bushings for the whole set. So what you see here is enough to do the one side of the rear wheel. Now, if you took care of the machine, I think these probably wouldn't be a problem. This is for sure my lack of greasing. If you look at the sleeve, I don't know if you guys can see inside there, there's 4 little channels for the grease to ooze out through. So my general recommendation is, if you put this thing underwater or you pressure wash it, grease until you see new grease come out of each end, run it around the yard a couple times, hit it one more time just to make sure you got all the water out of there. because this was, as you can see, let me tear this one apart here and you'll see I have not greased this season. And you'll see how much water is in there. I just pressure washed this. You see that's all water. There's no grease in that to speak of. And you'll see how wore out that one is right there. There's actually a lip that you can catch your fingernail on. So that's on me. It's pretty straightforward to do this. You see those just pop out like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our time to clean this up a little bit now. We're going to prep our new bushings and we'll put her back together. All right, so I've got this one cleaned up. I don't want to bore you with cleaning them all up, but if you guys want to come in close, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. So this piece here goes inside everything. So I'm going to put one of these in like this. And these really just press in. You can see I pressed it in tight. I'm going to put this in through like that. You see how it come out the other side? We'll get that one on there. And that's pretty much all there is to it. Now that's all rebuilt. So we're going to clean this one up. There's another one just like it, but it's longer on the bottom of the bearing housing, and we'll change that. And we'll bring you back when we're ready to put this in place. So you see we pressed our new bushings and sleeve inside the bearing housing, whatever you want to call it. We still have to do the top, but again, doing it one at a time, I think makes a lot of sense. The other thing you want to look at while you're right here is these holes. So if this bolt doesn't stay tight, these bolts are going to move around and that hole can wallow out. The solution for that, if it does, is just weld another washer on there. One of those things to check, like we found 2 loose bolts on this when we got it and tighten them up, but that's something just to keep in mind while you're working on this thing. Same down here, if this hole's wallowed out, you can just get a big heavy washer of the right diameter and put on there. So let's go ahead and stick this thing back together. I need this bolt right here. It's pretty explanatory how it goes, but I'll try to show you some of the nuances to this particular machine, if you will. I don't know about other brands or makes, but the bushings are all very similar between machines. You know, not that you want to buy this bushing for your machine, but the way it works is pretty simple. And you'll notice I unbolted the shock to take this out. So we're just going to hold that up out of our way. I'm going to get this one in there. And then we're going to put our shock bolt in. And bolts are all different enough, you really can't mess them up on this machine. So, for whatever that's worth. Trying to stay out of you guys' way and lift and push at the same time. There we go. And that goes back on there. And then there's a little 10mm on the brake line. It goes right in there. 10mm head, that is. It's not a 10mm bolt. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten this all up. And I'm going to change the top on off camera because it's the same exact process. I'll bring you back and show you putting grease in these before I put the tire on. And then we'll stuff the tire on and show you how it is. And then we'll talk about what this cost and, you know, whether it was my, I guess it is my mistake, but yeah, I'll talk about what it cost. So I'm going to grease this one here. I'm going to have you guys come out and look over my shoulder here. And we're going to be watching for grease to come out both sides, not just one. So I'm going to put that on there. And there's out of one side. And if you come around here, you'll see it's coming out of the other side. And my advice is more is better in this case. I know it's messy, but if you go until you see clean grease coming out of there and push all the water out, you'll be in pretty good shape. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put the tire back on, and we'll bring you back and show you that it's good and tight. and we'll talk about what this will cost and what it's going to cost to finish this. So as you can see, that tightened that right up. We're in good shape now. So what did this cost? What is it going to cost? So we have these bushings, these plastic bushings, and these are 10 bucks a piece. They're not cheap. One side on the rear has 10 of these. So it's $100 in bushings per rear tire. The front is very similar. One bushing's a little different, but it's about the same price. And these, whatever you want to call these things, these pieces that go in here, these shafts, these are actually cheaper, believe it or not. These range from $6 to $9. The long one being $9. I think the medium one was $8, and the short ones are $6 a piece. So if you call it 7 bucks a piece for math, there's 4 of these on this wheel, 5 of these on this wheel, so there's 35. So it's basically $135 a corner. So I could probably get away with not changing everything. They're not all worn out. The worst ones are down here, and these short ones right here. Those seem to take the biggest beating. But I didn't mind doing that, and like I said, you saw what we did. You saw that we're gonna do better about greasing this more often. And one of the problems that we have on this one is this bottom grease fitting down here, which you guys can't see. Doesn't matter, just trust me on it. It comes out of the bearing housing like this and points at a 45 right towards the wheel. So to put a 90 on, you could get a grease gun up in there, but right now you cannot grease those bottom fittings with the tires on. I bought a special end for the grease gun that goes on the side of the fitting, and that works really well. One of these days when we're going to the parts store, I'll pull one of those 45s out, see if I can't get some 90s to replace it, and that way I can grease it with the tires on. Yeah, that's about it. That's where we're at. We're going to go ahead and do the other 4 tires. The front ones aren't bad, actually. The front ones are pretty tight. We may leave those alone for now and just do this other back tire that's real loose. But yeah, moral of the story, grease the machine more often. How do we feel about the CF Moto? In my opinion, it's like 4,000 miles. We're getting ready to change the belt finally. I really don't know how often you should change a belt. I've asked everybody and I get 2 different opinions from every person I ask. I'm going to go ahead and change it just for the fun of it, just because it is 4,000 miles. But really, other than this issue right here in the dry shaft, we haven't had any issues with it. Mechanically, it goes well, runs well, everything works. We haven't lost any front or rear ends or any major components. The engine runs great. The one thing we do is we clean our air filter out. Mosquitoes, got it. Sorry about that if you love mosquitoes. We clean our air filter out very, very regularly. We keep spares, as you see up there, and I think that's one big thing. There's a lot of different schools of thought. You see some people that put the K&N wet filter on these. It's just a maintenance thing I don't like. I don't like the wet filters. It's a nuisance to me. I can keep 2 or 3 filters. I blow them out. I know that you're not supposed to blow them out. I can't give you any good reason why you shouldn't. If you take your blow nozzle and go inside the filter and blow the air back out of the filter, and don't blow from the outside. If you blow from the outside, you can push the dirt through the filter. But if you blow from the inside, you actually release the dirt from the filter. And as long as you're careful not to tear the filter with too much air pressure, if you tear it, throw it away. Don't reuse it. A little common sense goes a long ways there. We've always blown filters out in vehicles and heavy equipment, and this is really no different in my mind. They run in a very, very harsh environment. So long story short is do your maintenance. Do more maintenance than you think you should. If you've been underwater with it, the floorboards are underwater and your feet are getting wet, you know what? Bring it home, wash it off, grease everything up real well. Check all your drains, all your filter housings and your belt housing and everything have these little rubber drains on them. You can squeeze a little clip, take them off, make sure there's no water in them, that kind of thing. Hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully that kind of showed you this isn't really that bad of a project. You can pick away at it 1 bushing at a time. You really don't even have to take the A-arm out. I did because I wanted to show you, but you could drop this one out, change this one, put the bolt back in, take this bolt out, change those 2, put it back in, just like I did the top. I didn't actually take the top A-arm out. So, yeah, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.